You're in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my patrons of $15 or more want me to rant about. You can get a rant too by becoming one of those people. This one is from Captain Gestalt, who says, rant about how sexuality is depicted in anime versus Western media. You know, it's really funny because it's like a paradox. It's like Western media is like chaste up until the moment they want to show you hard fucking. It's like you can watch shows aimed at kids and they'll pretend that sex doesn't exist and just not mention it, you know. Then you watch shows aimed at teens and depending on the type of show it is, it either like tries to downplay sex as much as possible or like just has a very, you know, playful relationship with it. But like if you're watching something aimed at adults, then it's like everybody's rambunctiously fucking everyone. It's like, you know, you get to see everybody's sex life, you're watching everybody fuck. Usually people are fucking, you know, that have like very active sex lives. Then you go over to anime, and it's like, even shows for kids have a ton of sexual content in them. You know, like, you can go watch some shonen anime, Naruto's gonna turn into a fucking naked girl, you know, or 100 naked girls. And like, you know, you would not get that from an American show aimed at that age group. It would not happen. But, like, nonetheless, characters will rarely fuck, even in stuff, like, that's more adult. And I know it's just a difference of culture, but, like, at the same time, when you read Japanese novels, they tend to be way more upfront. What am I seeing over here? There's a nice ass in this comic that May is reading over on the side, which is Marijuana Man, incidentally.
Western.
Yeah.
She's brown. That's the difference.
Yeah. Oh, it's a Western depiction of sex. Yeah. Well, that's in a comic. I'm kind of like, that's the thing. He said anime versus Western media, and like it really depends on the media we're talking about. Like, comics have tons of fan service, and the characters usually do fuck. Um, I just feel like in anime and manga, it's like barely anybody fucks. Like if it's not actual porn, nobody fucks. And they have media aimed at adults where people do fuck, but it's not as exploitative about it. There's less of just the random fucking that will just be like in Game of Thrones. It's like in order for you to understand that the show is adult, they just have to show people fucking every once in a while. And I don't mind. I don't dislike it, but it's just really funny that like the main way you experience sex in that show is through just seeing people fuck. But like there's not common just sexuality sort of in the air, you know, in the way that there is in anime, where there could be like a sexual mood to a show even though nobody fucks in it. You know, it's fucking strange. It's really strange to think about this difference because I guess it's just that America doesn't have as much of the concept of like a sex comedy. Like I mean we have them in movies. We have like American Pie and shit like that. So I guess that they exist, but they're just more like, you know, adults, and they're not like they're not done in cartoons or comics all that much. Whereas like in Japan, you know, like half I feel like of all anime is sex comedy in some way. You know, like that is some element of it because it's just like it's such a part of the human experience that it feels like something you can't not acknowledge almost. Like for me, even though I can consume stories that don't have any sex in them at all, or even any sexuality in them, and perfectly enjoy it, it's so difficult for me to imagine like constructing a character and not thinking about their sex life. It's like baffling to me, you know. Um, and like yeah, I think that the sex lives between Americans and Japanese are probably pretty different in general. But like when you read their novels and stuff, it seems like sexuality is a lot more active than anime would lead you to believe. You know, it's all marketing. It's like who is reading it. You know, anime and manga is not going to convey as much actual sex happening because the people both reading and creating it are having less actual sex than probably the average citizen. So like, you know, so it's interesting that they would have so much forward sexuality with so little actual sex. Um, I guess I'm not saying that I want American shows to suddenly be full of fan service or anything. And like obviously there's plenty of sexuality in like adult oriented media and stuff. And I'm not saying that I would want there to be more sexuality and stuff aimed at younger audiences per se either. Just that like it's really interesting that Japan doesn't even bat an eye at that really, because why would you? And America just sees no reason to, I guess, move the line on that. Like, why would we? Nobody's calling for it. Nobody's begging for, and like the people who are going on the internet. So like, I mean, if we're talking about, cartooning in the sense of just drawing comics or illustrations, uh, sexuality is presented exactly the same everywhere because you can go on the internet and it's all a melting pot of influence and there's tons of sex comics being made everywhere and of all the same styles because they're all influencing each other and it's all niche markets, so nothing else comes into it. And like sexuality is pretty similar around the world. I don't think it's dramatically different. I don't think people's tastes are so different in any like one culture that it's alien to another one, so yeah, I guess that's my rant.